This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com. Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. And I have returned. I would like to thank Annie Cyrus, Michael Lauber, and Jeff Crouere for their brilliant fill-in hosting for me for the last, I think it was several months. You know, there's a song by Kenny Rogers which says, you got to know when to run away and you got to know when to hide. So that was a little bit in play. But Annie, what a superb fill-in hosting for me. I'm very grateful. You're absolutely wonderful. Michael Lauber, Jeff Crouere, thank you for doing such an amazing job for the Glazov Gang while I'm running around a little bit. We're back with another fantastic program with another fantastic guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember we're a fan-generated show. In some ways, it's more difficult than ever, but the reasons for that are for another program for us to discuss. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Rumble. Press instant notifications. Go to jamieglazov.com. Support us there. If you're in a good, generous mood, donate through our PayPal link. Subscribe to our newsletter. Follow us on X and on Facebook at Jamie Glazov. Most importantly, our wonderful and brilliant Annie Cyrus is on the front lines fighting for freedom and especially for her people in Iran at this very moment. Support her at liveuptofreedom.com. What an honor to have back with us this evening Daniel Greenfield, the CEO of the David Horowitz Freedom Center, and he's doing a million things, and one of them is writing the brilliant blog, The Point, at frontpagemag.com. Daniel, welcome to the Glazov Gang.
Thank you, Jamie. It's good to be back with you. It's been quite a few years now.
Daniel, how does it feel to be the CEO of the David Horowitz Freedom Center?
I think our CEO, our founder, and really our guiding light will always be David Horowitz. The best that we can do, you, I, and so many of the others who are in this fight with us, is to carry on his work.
Well, you are my boss now, and I hope there's no plans for me getting fired, and I'm trying to be as nice to you as possible. Daniel, maybe...
Appreciate all the donuts. And the beers.
Right. Daniel, I know we gotta laugh sometimes, even during tragic, sad times, but I don't know if even joking around right now is... I don't know. I've kind of, I don't even know if the word kind of is the right way to say it. I've been quite devastated and heartbroken, if those are two words to use, over what's happening in Iran. That vicious, fascist, Islamic tyranny straight from the pits of hell, shooting, killing, torturing, raping their people as they have been doing for more than 40 years now. And just what's coming out of there is just, it's heart-wrenching. And then we have Trump, who, I love Trump on many levels, but on other levels, just a disappointment, if that's another word to use. But when you say to a people, help is coming, and they're out in the streets getting shot in the eyes and in the head, and they're not even safe in the hospital. These Islamic monsters are coming into the hospitals and raping them and killing them and kidnapping them. What do you make of this whole situation in Iran, Daniel?
Well, the baseline is obviously you should not make any assurances that you're not prepared to keep, and that's something that would be good to remember. You certainly don't tell people that go out into the streets and help is coming if you don't actually intend to help. And this is not over yet, so we don't know how everything is going to play out. But that's just a basic point. You want to be able to be somebody who keeps their promises. What we're seeing, unfortunately, is the repetition of a tragic series of events. We've seen so many courageous people continuing to protest, continuing to defy the regime. It may not get the same kind of coverage in previous years. It wasn't the same kind of numbers of people, but still, you had people continuing to protest, women taking off their hijabs, people defying the authority of the religious fascist dictatorship there, the Islamic so-called revolution. And they've been doing that. We've seen the United States play this game before, unfortunately, under Obama. We've seen it play out again and again. The people are quite happy to see the back of the regime. Unfortunately, of course, we have quite a few apologists for the regime in the United States. We obviously have a lot of them on the Democrat side. We had it in the whole Obama administration. Unfortunately, there are people who are getting into the MAGA movement, into conservative foreign policy circles who are pretty transparently pro-Iran, whether they're being paid to do this or whatever the situation there is. So they're giving bad advice. They're churning out propaganda for the regime, and it's obviously playing a role.
You know, look, I don't need to qualify this every time, like in terms of how we, or I support Trump, love Trump on many levels. He saved our country, and I can list 100 things that I like about the guy, and I'm very grateful to the Lord that he's president instead of Biden. We got all that. But when you've got a little genocide occurring in a country, it's also just the way that he talks. It's like when you think of what's happening in Auschwitz and Buchenwald and Dachau, and you've got somebody talking about it like it's some kind of business deal that they're trying to work out with the guards there. He talks like it's so they can torture and kill tens of thousands of people just at this moment. Forget about what they've. No, I don't mean forget. I just mean I'm not even referring to the terror of the last 4 decades. But even right now, the numbers are even in the tens of thousands. And he's like, oh, well, they say that they've stopped. They've stopped. Like, so, okay, first of all, that's BS. But even hypothetically, okay, so a killing machine stops for 12 hours, even though they didn't stop. But what does that even mean? What is this guy, like, what is Trump talking about? You've got a genocidal killing machine, and, maybe they put a couple executions on hold for 3 hours, and now it's like, hey, they're not so bad. There's something very callous and ignorant coming out of Trump's mouth on this, right?
Unfortunately, in term one, President Trump said the right things about Islam. He got it. I didn't get to implement a lot of these things. In term two, there's a lot of bad people in the foreign policy apparatus, and there's absolutely no clue about this. I mean, Robert Spencer's writing articles at front page instead of advising the administration on Islam. Or advising the FBI or anything like that. There's absolutely nobody in the administration really beyond maybe one or two figures. Tulsi Gabbard expressed pretty clearly that Islam is a problem. But overall, there's pretty much nobody in the administration who will say clearly and explain that Islam is a terrorist threat. We've seen the Al-Qaeda leader of Syria get, this wonderful meet and greet at the White House. We now have Stephen Woodcock, the emissary, coming out, or at least one of his associates coming out saying that Hamas really wants peace. And we've got the spectacle that's going on in Iran, and it's the same common denominator, the same nonsense, the idea that these jihadists really want economic development. Woodcock was saying, just wait until they see our jobs, a tremendous jobs program that they have in Gaza. It's completely delusional. It fails to understand what Islam is, what jihad is, that the people who are doing this are actually serious about this. They're not waiting for a real estate deal. They actually believe that they are commanded religiously to dominate and oppress non-Muslims, to impose Islamic law by any means necessary, and the more bloodshed, the better. This is not about money. This is not about economic development. You can't negotiate or bribe your way out of dealing with these realities. And until there's somebody close to Trump who gets that, who articulates it the way that he used to, we're going to be stuck in the same dead-end foreign policy of appeasement.
Daniel, and I have my Christian faith, you have your Jewish faith. We obviously disagree on and don't see things the same on some layers, but on many other layers, we definitely conflate and see eye to eye. Why I'm saying that is just for a second, I'll say that I see this Islamic regime is pure evil in Iran. In my Christian perspective, this is the spirit of the Antichrist, pure demonic evil, and on many layers they rule on this earth. And Jesus told us that, when people hate you, remember they hated me first. When the world hates you, remember the world hated me first. So there's so much evil here. And the left and the West, the globalists, Europe, and the Islamic Arab world, there's so much overwhelming support for this regime. This is the hub of Islamic terror. This is the hub of demons. And there is so much support for this regime in the world on millions of layers. They cannot let this regime fall. The left cannot let this regime fall. They're allied with Islam. And this is maybe where we understand what Trump is up against, because he's up against a lot. Apparently, look, I don't even know what reports to believe anymore. There's just so overloaded with information, and sometimes you don't know what's true or not. But they're saying, some reports are saying that he almost hit them, but that Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar and Russia were telling him, don't do it. Then there's other reports that even Bibi might not be ready for an Iranian attack and is asking for a postponement. I don't know if there's any truth to that. In some ways, I don't even believe it, because the last time, apparently, Bibi wanted to take Iran out and Trump stopped him. So where am I going with this? I know I'm just kind of throwing things out, but definitely a very evil satanic regime, and it's got a lot of support in the world. And we see the double standards, like you've written about it. You've talked about how nobody calls it a genocide. So if the mullahs kill 20, 30,000 people in Iran, just gunning them down in the streets, you can't call it genocide, because that's being inflicted by Muslim terrorists. You've written about this at the point. But you can call what the Israelis are doing genocide, and we know that it's not genocide, not even anything close to what genocide is. I've thrown a lot at you here. What do you think about some of the things that I've said?
Well, there's no question that this regime is evil. And whatever the reports are, the bottom line is we stick with the facts, and I try to stick with direct quotes. So the media is going to push its various narratives, and it's the media that helped this regime come to power in the first place. You go back to the origins of the Islamic Revolution, you had actually people circulating New York Times articles defending the Ayatollah Khomeini, saying this would be a good development. The same sorts of foreign policy experts and politicians who pushed the new Middle East on us under Obama were pushing the same regime under Carter. So they wanted this in place. And what you have to ask, why do they want this in place? Well, the answer is in the motto of the regime, death to America. They want to destroy America. They want to use Iran to destroy America, to destroy Israel, to destroy the Christian world, to destroy Western civilization. So, as one of these people actually said on social media, if Iran falls, China and Russia are next. So, to them, this is about defending the threat to America, maintaining this Damocles sword that has the potential to destroy the West. And of course, they have absolutely no problem with sacrificing as many Iranians as it takes to do that, just as they had no problem whatsoever sacrificing as many Russians, Ukrainians back in the day of the Soviet Union, various other groups, Poles, Jews, to make that happen. So, and the same way they had no hesitation whatsoever in sacrificing as many Chinese, millions and millions, to maintain Maoist communist China. Their goal is the destruction of America, and they're afraid that if the Iranian regime falls, America will get an added lease on life. So they're
Yeah.
determined to make this happen.
Thank you, Daniel. I don't want to say my specialty, because still have so much to learn. But what I've tried to learn since I was 9 years old is how the left thinks. And this is my area of where I try to understand things in my book, United in Hate. And a new updated edition is coming out in February. I think it's going to be more relevant than ever. What really bothers me is, oh, well, like, why is nobody saying anything about Iran? The left should be supporting, where's the Western leftist feminists? There's always this incredulous dismay of people in the West. Like, they don't understand why they're not doing this and that. Like, once you understand the left, this makes total sense, the double standard. It makes total sense why the Golden Globes celebs didn't say one thing about Iran. Why the leftists, Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg and, Sonny Hostin, they're not going to have you or Robert Spencer or Annie Cyrus on their show. I just want to say this, so let's even just deconstruct just a tiny bit here. When you've got Islamic butchers shooting down, killing and torturing and raping Iranian people because they want to really overthrow an Islamic tyranny, they can't support that because in their vision, first of all, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. They want to destroy this host society, the democratic capitalist society. The left wants to destroy this society. It cannot support the overthrow of an adversarial ideology and regime because they want that, as you also just mentioned, they need Islam to be the weapon to destroy their own society. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But the left also sees Islam on many levels as an ally, as a friend, but they've also racialized Islam. The left has racialized it. So they see Islam as a colored minority, people of color that are oppressed by white supremacy and colonialism. So Islam is rebelling against white supremacy, against colonialism. So if they support the Iranian people, right away they're going to be branded as colonialists and white supremacists, and the left can't have that. It can't be on the side of anybody that's opposing Islam and anybody that's shining a light on the satanic, demonic nature of Islam. So that's some of the paradigm there, and it's very easy to understand. I wish people would stop talking about how it doesn't make any sense and they can't figure it out. Just figure it out once and for all, and you don't have to say it. So the left is allied with Islamic butchers the same way it's been allied with communist butchers in the world. Over to you.
Absolutely. And that really is the big picture of what we're dealing with here. The left has a mission to destroy America. Islam has a mission to destroy America. As your really valuable book, United in Hate, I'm glad it's making a comeback. Everybody should read it, point it out. These are really very, very compatible ideologies, despite the seeming differences. Yes, people look at the gay pride parades and the she, they pronouns, and they think this isn't really, this has nothing in common with the mullahs. But no, they're both really fundamentally similar ideologies. Again, as you're far more qualified to speak on. And again, everybody should get a copy of United in Hate. But it is really the fundamental goal here is indeed the destruction of America and the destruction of Western civilization. And, people absolutely are mistaken this idea. Well, the left has this, you've pointed out, the left has these double standards. The left actually internally has a pretty single standard. And the standard is destruction. That is their overriding mission. And both Islam and the left want to reset us, want to fundamentally wipe out everything that we are, and fundamentally transform us. They're going to, in the end, have this fight. At least they think they're going to have this fight in the end over who gets to rule, who gets to decide all this. And this is actually how it started in Iran, with the leftists and the Islamists colluding together. And then eventually, of course, Islam dominated the left, as it has in every single of these little Middle Eastern power struggles. In the end, ultimately, Islam triumphed, the left lost out, but it didn't stop Western leftists from, again, continuing to uphold Islam, despite the fact that all these leftists were then imprisoned, killed, those who didn't join the regime were suppressed despite all that. The Western left continued allying with the Iranian regime, with Islam in general.
Yeah. I just look, even when I mean, first of all, just CNN, MSNBC, we have to be in a masochistic mood to analyze them, but that's what I do. But even on Fox News, I'm so tired of hearing this. So the host will be like, oh, the women are being raped and tortured by Sharia. Why does the leftist feminists not say anything? And then the guests will go, yeah, I just can't figure that out. Just don't understand it. Well, do you want to understand it? Because you can invite me and Daniel Greenfield and Annie Cyrus and Robert Spencer on the show and we'll explain it to you. And then you don't have to be confused about it anymore. But people don't really want to know the answer, So this is my thing. I know that I think the majority of the world enjoys its willful blindness. And, David Horowitz and Peter Collier, when they were on their journey out of the left, David talks about this in Radical Sun, they began to realize that there's malice in the heart of the left. There's a malice there. And I've written about this in United in Hate. Make no mistake, it's called negative identification. And Paul Hollander, the sociologist, has written about this as well. They're living vicariously through this. Make no mistake, when Castro butchers people, when Mao butchers people, when Stalin butchers people, when the Islamic regime is slaughtering Iranians, the left enjoys it. The leftist feminists enjoy it. They live vicariously through it. That's how they inflict their urges for sadistic power onto the world, because they can't do it to us yet. Because guess what they're going to do to us when they take power? We've already seen what they do when they have power. So I just wanted to get that out there, that they're living sadistically, vicariously through what the mullahs are actually doing to their own people. And just the naivete about the left really, I guess you could say, bothers me. Daniel, one more time. When the guards of Auschwitz, when the butchers of Auschwitz, and when the people running the gas chambers are turning on the gas and doing vicious medical experiments and killing and torturing and gassing the Jewish people for months and months, and people are coming to liberate it, and then the guards and the butchers say, we've turned off the gas for 3 hours. Is that really a reason not to come? So even when Trump he even said there during the whatever, he was being asked some questions with some people standing around him. And he's like, well, apparently they've stopped killing the protesters. And it's unconscionable to say that. Again, they did not stop, but what does it matter even if butchers stop for 23 minutes when they've been engaged in genocide for the last few weeks at a very high level? And it's just a continuation of the genocide that's been happening there for 4.5 decades. What do you think?
The bottom line is either we come to grips with the reality of what Islam is, what jihad is, and how they think, or we make excuses. And this is, just another one of those excuses. In the early days of the Nazi regime, the New York Times described Hitler as the leader of the moderate wing of the Nazi party. We hear all these stories about the moderate jihadists, the moderate Islamic regimes. Of course, there is no such thing. They all really ultimately congeal down to the same thing. It's what we're seeing in Bangladesh with the brutal killings of Hindus, for example. But the media praises all this. Then it gets to a point where it can no longer defend it, where it's just too apparent, much as with the Stalin regime. Then at that point, it switches over to making excuses, to saying, well, things are getting better. There's not that much we can do about it. It's not that they actually believe any of this. It's that they want to believe this. And when people want to believe something like that, well, they go ahead and they believe it, because we live in the wonderful age where everybody invents their own facts, invents their own reality, and of course, especially crucially, invents their own morality.
And there's such a willful blindness and also Stockholm syndrome with Islam. Look, I get it. It's very easy for me and for us to sit here and to criticize Trump. We don't know a million things happening behind closed doors. And it's not a joke. It's not a joke to strike Iran. I get it, because there will be retaliation. They may attack Israel. They might start attacking Americans. Who knows who's going to get involved. There might be a World War III that breaks out. Apparently, some Arab countries, whatever. There's just reports that Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, whatever, whoever's saying stuff. And all of this is look, we know that the mullahs are calling in a whole bunch of Arab terrorists to come and kill Persians, because the majority of Persians are not going to, well, I don't know if the majority, Annie Cyrus is going to enter this discussion in a second. So I don't know a majority in the numbers, but we are aware that many Persians will not shoot Persians. And so they're bringing in these Arab terrorists to kill Iranians. But what do you think that Trump is up against, in the sense of, I think behind closed doors, they were telling him, listen, if you do this, this could really lead to A, B, C, D that is very, very dangerous and bad. What is maybe something we don't understand and the high risks of this?
No, we've had these people on the inside. Some of these people got in. No, I've reported in the past that the Koch brothers, or rather the surviving brother, really infested much of our foreign policy apparatus, particularly at the Pentagon, with his people who are leftists or anti-American, were of course anti any kind of intervention. So Trump has weathered this before. He had all these, if we take out Iran's nukes, it's going to be World War III. And guess what? It was not World War III. And if we do anything about Venezuela, we do anything to Maduro, it's going to be World War III. It was not World War III. No, we've been getting these nonstop predictions of World War III for quite a few years
Yes.
now. I've said it over and over again. There is no World War III. There's not the World War III we have is a slow-moving invasion of Western countries by Islam. That's our World War III. It's not
Yes.
a we're going to shoot off nukes like it's the middle of the Cold War situation. So President Trump has to resist being jammed and pushed and manipulated by all the people that are brought into this administration that really need to be pushed out. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has pushed a few of them out, but it's just really the tip of the iceberg. So they're in there. They're giving bad intelligence. We've seen this game play out before. We've seen it play out with Bush, where they try to manipulate the president. We've seen them play out with the Reagan administration even before that. So President Trump at some point is either going to follow his common sense instincts and do the right thing, or he's going to let these people manipulate him, and we'll see which one of those things actually happens.
Absolutely. The way I just try to keep myself psychologically together in all this, because my heart is just so with the Iranian people and we want justice. And I often think, and again, when I'm bringing up the Christian faith, my Christian faith, we have a lot in common, because my Jewish friends are always telling me parts of the Torah and of the Jewish faith where there's elements there that when things finally get so bad that one has no choice but to turn to the Lord, that there is that moment there of when there's a mystery there in terms of suffering. And in my faith, I think about in Revelation, and there's a part in Revelation where the saints are begging God in heaven. The saints in heaven are begging God for justice for the martyrs on earth. And somewhere it's nothing new here. I was thinking, like, in terms of what happened in my country, has there ever been any justice? What the Bolsheviks did, what the Soviet regime did, what Stalin did, just 30, 40 million people slaughtered, what Mao did, what Castro did, what North Korea has done, what the Soviet regime has done, what Islam has done, is doing in Iran. It's been doing this since the beginning of time in terms of the genocide and jihad. Just, hundreds of millions of people, some say 300 million people at the least, slaughtered by jihad throughout the years. So in some ways, I don't mean to be rambling here, but in a spiritual sense, we are prepared for this injustice because we know that vengeance is the Lord's, and we have to lean back on our faith during this time as well, right, Daniel?
Yeah, we do. Look, the benefit of being a religious person is that we know the ending. We know that things in between are going to be hard, they're going to be at time bad, and the part of that up and down really is the challenge of faith. It's the test of enduring, of knowing that ultimately God has a plan, which does not excuse us from doing, of course, everything that we can. But we have seen this. We've seen the prophets, we've seen the forefathers, we've seen leaders and kings struggle with that. And yet, really, the beautiful thing is that we do know the ending. The ending is that ultimately God is in charge.
Yeah.
God will reveal that he was in charge all along. Evil will be defeated and destroyed. So, as much as we look at some of the horrifying things that have gone on, that are continuing to go on, this perception that there is no justice in the world, well, ultimately, the power of God's revelation is to bring justice into an unjust world.
Thank you, Daniel. Annie, I know you're sitting there definitely, and I'm sure you wouldn't even know where to start. Our hearts are with you. This is your country. These are your people. It must be a really heart-wrenching turmoil time for you. Where does one even begin? Annie, your thoughts during these very troubling days?
Well, thank you, both of you, Jamie and Daniel. If you don't mind, I'm going to put few numbers on the things you've been talking about. First thing is, on the conservative number, for last 47 years of the Islamic regime killing Iranians only inside Iran, conservative number is 100,000 people. So yes, this is a genocide. Over 47 years, they have killed 100,000 Iranians inside Iran for crimes of opposing regime, practicing freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Now, I will say one thing. On a recent Substack, very recent as a few days ago, which I'm thankful to both of you for publishing it on Front Page Mag as well, I close the Substack by saying, pray for the Iranian people who are the most abandoned freedom fighters in the world. Every time there's an uprising, every time there's a movement, every time there's this time a revolution, it's not just the left who doesn't come to scream. It's not just the right that doesn't come to back him up. It's nobody. UN suddenly has nothing to do with the killings. International laws don't count anymore. Declaration of Human Rights disappears from everybody's mind, and they're on their own. Now I'm going to go to say another thing that I have said, and I want to say it on your show, especially since we have Daniel on. If there is any credit and crown to be given to a foreign country that has always been there for Iranian people, that is Israel, on their leadership of Netanyahu. I might disagree with him on a lot of things, but I will always say that whenever he is leading Israel, he has stood by people of Iran, not just by words and tweets, no, through action. The 100,000 number you hear would have been triple if it wasn't for Israel and Mossad. And I want to say, it's not just me saying it, most of Iranians are very aware. So every time you see propaganda on your TV, on your social media, that Iranians and Jews hate each other, I like to set the record straight. Iranians, Persians, and Jews go way back to Cyrus the Great, and we have a natural bond. And what amazes me the most is you have Crown Prince Pahlavi, son of the late Shah of Iran, who released a public video talking to the world, and he goes over his plan. And one of the most important things he says is, under a free Iran, Israel will be recognized immediately. Now, tell me, why would any leader of a free world not jump in and say, let's go, problem solved, Abraham Accords not needed? Iran that will again recognize Israel. And I want to remind everybody, historically, Iran under King Pahlavi was the first country in March of 1950 that recognized Israel in the entire region. We could repeat history. But then let's keep in mind, Iran is not just a country. Iran has always been the gem of the region. A free Iran means business shut down for elites and globalists. So for anybody who may not, as you said, Jamie, may not understand why they're not freeing Iranian people, this is why. Even a sworn enemy like the regime is more profitable for the elites than a free Iran.
Daniel?
Very powerfully said.
Annie, continue.
I just don't want to take all of the time of the show because I can talk forever. Another thing I want to say is...
Before you say that, Annie, your people, I'm just thinking about the Persian people at this moment. So many of them. If you step outside your house, there's a very high chance you'll get shot in the eye, shot in the head. They're going to come into your house, rape your mother and your sister and drag you away, and they still go outside. The Persian people have had enough, haven't they?
Yes, not only they have had enough, but on a personal call yesterday, Lord blessed us where I received a direct call from Iran. Finally, after 7 days of not being able to reach anyone, I got a call. Call was short. It got disconnected. And I tried to stay quiet so the other person on the other end could tell me what they needed to tell me. And I want my fellow Americans to listen to this carefully. The first thing that person said was a question for me. And they said, it's a war zone here. Is help coming? And my answer was, I pray for it to come, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And in response, I heard the following. It's okay if it's not coming. We're not giving up. We will die one by one. We're done. And on that note, I went on air myself and I said, I will join them. If the help comes, hallelujah. If it doesn't, hallelujah. Let's remind our audience, the biggest reawakening has been taking place in Iran for the last 5 years. Iranians are coming to Christ in tens of thousands. I know Lord is watching, my people. And if anybody else thinks Iranian people's life, their hope, is some sort of piece of a chess set for them to play it in 3D or 5D set, then their judgment will be by the Lord as well. But these people are going to die one by one, but they are not going to accept one more day of legitimacy of this monster Khamenei, who should have been removed 6 months ago. And I want to address something else. Any place that is reporting that Israel has called or Bibi has called Trump saying, no, don't go in Iran. We're not ready for Iran's attack. I'd like to take you back to June 2025 when Israel wiped Iran's regime in the most surprising attack of all time when the world was in shock. I highly doubt that Bibi or Israeli military would flinch thinking Iran might hit Israel. Israel has been at war for 47 years. They are not afraid of an attack by Iran. So this is the new propaganda put out to make Bibi and Israel and IDF the bad guys. So don't listen to it. Did Qatar and Saudi ask for no attack on Iran? Yes. Because Qatar knows without Iran, there is no Hamas. Without Hamas, there is no money laundering for Qatar. Of course, Qatar wants the regime in place. Saudi Arabia knows if there are no mullahs, Saudi won't be the sole fake ally of America making money through their oil. They know a free Iran means, again, the strongest ally in Middle East, and the oil industry will not be controlled by Saudi Arabia anymore.
Yeah, and Trump is making the deal with these monsters.
Yes, but that, again, He's done great things.
Yes.
He's made some bad choices, shook some really wrong hands, such as Al Shara, also known as Al Jalani. But to say publicly on camera that I have on good authorities that they have stopped killing, I don't know who believed that, but that comes with accountability. From that moment on, every confirmation of death we receive is not just on the mullahs. I apologize, but those bloods are also on President Trump.
Yeah.
Not for not going in and helping them. I want to be clear. No, not for not going in and helping them. No, the blood is also on his hand for spreading propaganda that is pro-regime. That is the issue.
Yeah. Look, let's pray that maybe we don't know something and that Trump and Bibi and some good guys are just calculating to do it the right and perfect way. That's what I'm hoping.
But I go back to what you both said at the beginning. I agree. A lot is going on behind the scene. President Trump is under tremendous pressure from Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, MEK, Rudy Giuliani. But I'll say what you said. If help wasn't coming immediately, he shouldn't have said, continue. Listen, his Truth Social didn't just say, great job, you're so brave, you're so courageous. No, it said, continue the protest and take your institutions in, if possible. You don't tell people to try to conquer a country. You're not coming immediately to take out the enemy.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Annie. Daniel, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm in complete agreement. You definitely do not do that. And I mean, the Iranian people have been very brave. I, only wish that our government was as brave and had as much integrity.
Thank you so much, Annie and Daniel, for your heartfelt and brilliant and profound analysis of the situation in Iran. And our prayers and our thoughts are with the Iranian people, and fingers crossed that there can be justice and the proper kind of protection and rescue of the Iranian people. With the little amount of time we have left, let's go to some other headquarters of injustice in the world. Steve Bannon, jail. Peter Navarro, jail for not abiding by subpoenas to Congress. Bill and Hillary Clinton didn't show up in terms of their subpoenas. They are not in jail. Why do Republicans have to go to jail, but Democrats don't have to go to jail? Now, we know the answer, but let's articulate the answer. Daniel?
I mean, same reason why when Hillary Clinton was keeping classified documents, there wasn't FBI agents poking through Hillary's underwear, which is probably a fate worse than death. The interesting thing here really is that the Clintons are defying the subpoena and potentially risking legal consequences over having to testify about their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. So they're really taking a risk there because there is a motivated Congress there, one that potentially might actually try to enforce that. I mean, I don't think much will come of it, but still, potentially the risk is there, yet the Clintons are willing to dare prison over it. And the basic question is, what did they know about Jeffrey Epstein? What are they lying about? Because people have lost sight. We've had this disinformation operation against President Trump, trying to tie him to Jeffrey Epstein. Unfortunately, some people who claim to be part of MAGA joined into this malicious operation and worked together with Democrats. I mean, you see Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie palling around and pushing all these lies. The bottom line is, whatever you can want to think about President Trump, he had no authority to protect Jeffrey Epstein from prosecution when everything came down. There were only one power couple that could do it, Bill and Hillary Clinton. It was Democrat prosecutors in 3 states, New Mexico, New York, and Florida, who specifically protected Epstein, who took him off sex offender lists. All this, as I've said over and over again, all these years from when I first began reporting on this, it begins and ends with the Clintons.
Well, this is the world we live in. If you look at Annie Cyrus's Facebook page, which everybody should follow and subscribe to, follow there and subscribe to her Substack. But just Annie has there's a gallery, if that's a word to use, of the little kids being killed in Iran. Children. And, yeah, this is normal. But Khomeini's not going to pay the price, right? Steve Bannon goes to jail. Navarro goes to jail. Just standard that the Clintons don't go to jail. 1 million British girls raped by Muslim rape gangs in the last 10, 15 years. Who do they put in jail? Tommy Robinson for talking about it. We can feel the force, Daniel, in our world. There's somewhere that if you're trying to protect the Judeo-Christian tradition, it's very obvious you're going to suffer. If you're part of the unholy alliance, in terms of the mullahs, in terms of the left, in terms of Islam, nothing's going to happen to you. This is very obvious, isn't it? And it's very clear that there's a spiritual battle here.
There's a very easy way that we can spot the force of evil in our world today, and that is inversion. Inversion is a thing you see in the world over and over again. It means that evil is made to seem good, good is made to seem evil, perpetrators are turned into victims, victims are turned into perpetrators. We see this after every Islamic terrorist attack, where suddenly we are told, well, they are afraid of the Islamophobic backlash. Whether it's the Somali fraud, whether it's the rape gangs in the UK, it's all the same pattern. And, we see this in ICE in Minneapolis. This radical leftist drives a car at an ICE officer, gets shot, she's the victim. These people are attacking illegal alien criminals, are attacking federal immigration law enforcement with shovels, with bricks. They're the victims. So this is what evil does over and over again. When you see inversion, you see evil.
And may I just jump in, since you brought this up? I do understand, but don't you love the hypocrisy? They're screaming on the streets, police brutality, police brutality. But when solid videos and pictures comes out of Iran, where police is shooting Iranian people in the back, they're spreading, they're going home, and police is still shooting him in the back. Nobody's screaming police brutality, right?
Yeah. And that's where we know, bottom line, that the left does not care about human beings. We got to go. I wish it could be another hour. There is often a moment when I come home from doing this show and I'm worried a little bit that when it comes out very quickly that it'll be outdated. This is one of those times where I hope that it'll be outdated. And my prayer, and I think I speak on our behalf, is when this show comes out, our prayer is that it'll be outdated and that Khomeini and his monsters are not going to be in a luxurious situation. Let me just put it that way. Daniel Greenfield, thank you for being such a stand-up guy. Thank you for joining the Glazov Gang. Thank you for the wonderful work you're doing at the David Horowitz Freedom Center as the CEO. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for another great conversation.
And Annie, thank you for your heart and profound insights, and our hearts are with you as you're monitoring what's happening with your people in Iran.
Thank you both for caring and covering what's happening to my people.
Thank you for your strength, Annie.
And we pray. Thank you for joining the Glazov Gang this evening. We'll see you soon. Good night.